What if the most profound lessons about how to stay together actually come from understanding why things fall apart? Today, we're going to dive into a really powerful reflection from someone who did the tough work of sifting through the wreckage of his own marriage to find some real clarity. These are the lessons that, for him, came a little too late, but maybe not for you. Wow, just let that one sink in for a second. This single sentence, it's pretty much the heart of this entire explainer. It completely reframes the end of a relationship. It's not about losing some magical, mysterious feeling. It's about a failure of action. It suggests love isn't just something that happens to you, it's something you actively do. So often, we imagine marriages end with a huge bang, right? Some big cinematic moment of betrayal that just shatters everything. And yeah, sometimes they do. But the author here points out that his story, well, it was a lot quieter than that. It was more like a slow, quiet erosion, just an accumulation of tiny grievances, unspoken frustrations, and little moments of disconnection. And over time, all those little things, they build a massive wall between two people. And that's the crucial point, isn't it? It's often the small stuff that does the most damage, precisely because it goes unnoticed until it's way too late. Man, this is the question that just haunts anyone who's ever been through a serious breakup. How does something that starts with so much hope and promise end up in such a painful, final place? Well, to find the answer, this guy basically had to become an archaeologist of his own failure. So let's take a look at what he found. The very first uncomfortable truth he uncovered is what he calls a death by 1,000 cuts. And it's all about this really subtle pattern of behavior that slowly and silently poisons a partnership right from the inside. And that poison has a name you've probably heard before: weaponized incompetence. Now, the key thing to get here is that it's often a defense mechanism. It isn't always someone being consciously malicious. It's a way of acting like you're just not good at something, as a way to avoid ever having to do it. And here's what that looks like day to day. The author is brutally honest, admitting he was guilty of all of this. He was just bad at loading the dishwasher, so she always did it. He didn't know which diapers to buy, so she handled it. You see the pattern? The result is that she became the default manager for their entire life, carrying this enormous mental load that was totally invisible to him. And this right here is such a critical distinction. By offloading all that responsibility, he completely changed their dynamic. He stopped being an equal partner in building their life and basically became a helper, just waiting for instructions in his own home. And that kind of imbalance, it just slowly crushes respect and intimacy. Okay, so that leads us right into the second truth, which really explores the emotional consequences of that imbalance. It's about a fundamental mismatch in communication, a clash the author describes as logic versus feeling. This comparison really nails the disconnect. Whenever his wife was upset, his brain would immediately jump into problem-solving mode. He'd offer logic, solutions, even reasons why she shouldn't feel that way. But she wasn't looking for a fix. She was looking for connection. All she wanted was for him to see her, to hear her, and to validate what she was feeling. And the author sums it all up with this devastatingly honest line. By constantly trying to logic her out of her emotions, he was unintentionally sending a really loud message: your feelings are wrong. And that, of course, just made her feel profoundly alone. So, this whole pattern of miscommunication and unmet needs, it leads directly to the third uncomfortable truth, the silent scorecard. Because when things go unsaid, they don't just disappear. They kind of curdle into something else. And that something else is resentment. I mean, this metaphor is just perfect, like a termite. Resentment works in the dark. It's quiet. You don't even see the damage it's doing until the very foundations of your relationship are about to collapse. See, the author and his wife thought they were keeping the peace by dodging all those difficult conversations. But in reality, they weren't avoiding conflict at all. They were just deferring it. They were letting all that pressure build up and up in silence with absolutely no release valve. And this is the result. The partnership becomes a transaction. You start keeping this mental scorecard of who did what, who's contributing more, and who owes whom. It just kills generosity and turns love into an obligation. It's a game where the only possible outcome is that both people feel like they're losing. So, after all this painful hindsight, what's the ultimate lesson here? This brings us to the fourth and final truth he uncovered, and it's a big one. Love is a verb. This is about a fundamental shift in how we think about what love actually is. This slide really highlights the core discovery. Most of us are taught to think of love as a noun, a thing you have, a feeling that hits you, something that's supposed to be effortless. But in a long-term partnership, that feeling, it ebbs and flows. The author argues that for love to last, it has to be treated as a verb, something you actively do, a promise you keep, a choice you make every single day. So what does that practice actually look like? Well, it's not about grand romantic gestures. It's the small, consistent actions. It's showing up, even when it's hard. It's actively choosing your partner over and over again. It's doing the work of communication and connection, especially when you don't feel like it. That is the practice. And that brings us to the final, crucial takeaway. The author's marriage didn't end because the feeling disappeared. It ended because the practice stopped. So he leaves us with this question to reflect on in our own lives, because answering it honestly could be the difference between that sunlit horizon and a cliff.